Number 10, the Community cast. Kicking off our list is a group effort. Chevy Chase was a popular man thanks to National Lampoon and Saturday Night Live, but he returned to the mainstream when he starred as Pierce Hawthorne on the hit sitcom Community. Now, I personally loved this show. Chevy Chase, not so much. And it would appear that his Community co-stars would agree with that statement. Around the middle of the show's runtime, Chevy started to complain about his co-stars, especially Donald Glover. It became apparent that he was more than just angry with Donald and was eventually fired for using racial slurs against him. According to Donald himself, aka Troy Barnes, Chevy would often make inappropriate jokes, either aimed at him or as a general way to disrupt a scene. Joel McHale told People that before he was fired, Chevy was complaining about his character on the show and how he was being portrayed. The entire cast reminded Chevy that there was no contract keeping him there, which may have been part of what set him off on set. His character was written out in truly humiliating fashion, with his life ending after feeding his geese too much, if you know what I mean. He was playing with his ding-dong. Number 9, Tyrese Gibson. It's no longer a surprise to anyone on the planet that James Franco is a bad dude. His negative vibe can actually be traced back to 2005. James and Tyrese Gibson starred opposite each other in a 2005 dramatic piece called Annapolis. The story followed Franco's character wanting to attend the titular Naval Academy and entering into a boxing tournament against some of the Navy's best and brightest. His main opponent was, of course, Tyrese Gibson. Throughout the majority of the film, James and Tyrese would regularly practice their choreography for their final fight of the film. Now, method acting is one thing when you just pretend to be someone else all the time, but it's different when you're literally punching your co-star for real. Instead of the normal film choreography allowing actors to fake hit each other, Franco was throwing real punches left and right without warning. Gibson tried to be civil at first and just asked him to lighten up, but Franco ignored him and continued to box his little heart out. When asked about the incident in interviews, Franco defends himself by saying that he was aware that he made the set difficult at times and just claimed to be so wrapped up in his role that he probably wasn't as friendly as he could be. Gibson, however, holds a massive grudge towards Franco, claiming that he'd never step foot in the same room as him ever again. Good news for Tyrese, James got cancelled and Fast 11 is surely on its way. Maybe they'll go to Atlantis this time. Okay, why does that sound cool though? Number 8, Viola Davis. Now, the stories about Jared Leto and his acting methods are infamous. On almost every single set that he's been on, this dude has just caused some kind of issue. Someone made very smart decision to keep Jared away from his castmates on the set of Haunted Mansion. That decision really should have been made though on the set of the long-forgotten 2016 Suicide Squad from DC Comics, when Jared played the Joker and took it just way too far. Now, I have mentioned the fact that he's left live animals in people's trailers and used adult skin tubes on their pillows, and many times in many other videos. For Amanda Waller, aka Viola Davis, she actually received an unwanted surprise that almost forced her to quit the gig. One day she returned to her trailer where she found a case filled with ammunition. Thousands of little metal life enders were just left there as a gift from Jared. Viola did not think this was a present. In fact, she thought that this was a threat. After speaking to her fellow castmates, she realized that it was just Jared leaving her a fun little gift, you know, just enjoy it. This was frightening to say the least, but for Viola, it set her off. When speaking about her time on the film, she has maintained that Jared was intense, and she's glad that she never had to be face to face with him on screen. Or maybe she was. Honestly, I try not to think about that movie very much. Number 7, Amy Hill. Yeah, baby, this one's shagadelic. Despite being a Canadian treasure and the man behind some comedy cult classics like Austin Powers and Wayne's World, Mike Myers is apparently a menace on set. According to his Cat in the Hat co-star Amy Hill, Mike had handlers dress his entire trailer and work area in tenting. Apparently, he didn't want anyone to physically see him. Honestly, that's fair. If I was in a cat suit with an actual plastic bum crack in it, I would want to hide too. His reputation as a difficult Donnie may have something to do with Hollywood basically blacklisting him from appearing as a lead in anything thanks to The Love Guru, which, again, I try not to think about that movie. Of course, he recently starred in his own show called The Pentaverate, which aired on Netflix, a show where he was forced to play half of the cast because he couldn't get more people to work with him. Or maybe it's because of The Love Guru. Honestly, it's a bad movie, who knows? Number 6, Latto. Latto debuted a new song at Coachella earlier this year, a catchy tune that a lot of fans are calling a direct diss towards Nicki Minaj. The big energy rapper provided fans with a fun dance track packed to the brim with shade. Rapping the lyrics, snitches acting like they're running it, they really ran through. She thought I would kiss her ash, but She mustn't have she mustn't have took her meds. Can you tell I'm not a rapper? Latto ended the song with several clues as to who the song was about, including some ad-libs like, say she got a problem, imaginary smoke, you said it's up, then put on the floor. I honestly would love to quote everything that she sang or said about Nicki, but it just does not sound right coming out of me. I mean, just listen to how I say the word snitch, like the true Harry Potter geek that I am. In the past, the two had a very public battle on Twitter with swear words and shade being thrown left and right. After Coachella in 2022, these two fell out even harder. An all-out verbal war had begun with the two now entangled in a lifelong feud that may never fade. Now, I'm not sure who the rude one is in this case. I will let you be the judge because you're probably a fan and I'm not. Number 5, George Takei. This one is for all of you Star Trek fans out there. Please just live long and prosper and enjoy this video. Now, the world will surely be well aware of this long-standing feud between William Shatner and his Star Trek co-star, George Takei. This feud has lasted over 50 years, and according to George, boils down to William being a prima donna attention hog the entire time he was on set. Over the years, George has always been very vocal about his opinion on his fellow Star Trek cast and crew. Most of the time, he has nothing but nice things to say and claims to have made lifelong friends from the project. But there is one that he despises: William Shatner. William Shatner was the bane of everyone's existence on set. He loved being the center of attention, and he was very self-involved. He wanted everyone to know who he was. William actually responded to these claims, telling people that he believed his Star Trek co-star was damaging his good name for publicity's sake. Why would a man who's barely acted in 30 years suddenly want to bash you for fame and glory? That doesn't make sense. I don't know if anyone's noticed or not, but William Shatner hasn't done much either in a while, other than petition to go to space for real. Number 4, Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne and Vin Diesel first met on the set of Fast 5, the 5th Fast and Furious movie. They're really great with names. This was Vin Diesel's 5th movie, while it was Dwayne Johnson's first, not just in the franchise, but in acting in general. Now, at first, everything seemed to be okay with these guys. Fast 5 made a ton of money, and they asked Dwayne to come back for a 6th and 7th installment. However, something changed in 2016 when in a now deleted post called one of his fellow Fast 7 co-stars a candied bum bum, only he didn't say bum bum. Man, I wish I could swear. He actually said a word that rhymes with grass. Rumors began to fly that he was more than likely referencing Vin Diesel. Rumors proven true only a week later. Following the premiere of Fate of the Furious, Johnson posted to Instagram thanking all of his fellow cast members by name, but he left Vin Diesel out of it. It was later confirmed by Michelle Rodriguez, their co-star, that there was a massive amount of tension on set. They were bros at first, but as time went on, the franchise evolved, and so did their egos. They fought constantly over who should get more screen time, more money, who was the real lead, you know, toxic stuff like that. To keep both of the actors happy, Johnson was given a spin-off movie where he co-starred with Jason Statham, and Vin Diesel was left right where he belongs with his family. Number 3, Meryl Streep. Dustin Hoffman is a very easy man to spot. Not only is he a solid actor, but he has a very specific face. Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium, anyone? Huh? Remember that movie? I didn't until I started writing this script, and I'm gonna go watch it tonight. Despite his ability to play lovable and cheerful characters, he actually started out as somewhat of a villain. On the second day of filming his more famous part in Kramer vs. Kramer, Dustin decided to improvise a scene where he strikes Meryl Streep across the face. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Dustin Hoffman thought it'd be a good idea to slap Meryl Streep. Mamma mia, that's not okay. Get it? Because she was in Mama? I'm just gonna move on. Not only was Meryl shocked by the move, but she recalled that Dustin was also trying to use a tactic on her called emotional recall, taunting her about her late partner, John Cazale, and his illness. So just extra level of evil from Dusty. Number 2, Freddie Prinze Jr. Kiefer Sutherland is known for his roles in movies like Lost Boys and Stand By Me, and has built a nice little nest egg for himself. For a long time, he was starring in the crime drama 24. Many celebrities have made small cameos and reoccurring roles on the show, but in 2010, Scooby-Doo alumni Freddie Prinze Jr. was casted as Agent Cole Ortiz. Despite the massive success of the show, the job left him scarred, admitting that he hated every moment of it. According to Freddie, Kiefer Sutherland is the most unprofessional person in the entire world. He continued to say that he wasn't talking trash. This was something that he would say happily to Kiefer's face. Apparently, a ton of his co-stars agree that he makes filming a living nightmare. Following the end of his character's time on the show, he did slow down in the acting world, now limiting himself to voiceover and cameo roles. The odd thing was that while there was some people backing up Freddie's story, there were actually a higher number of defenders for Sutherland, claiming the exact opposite was happening. Some say he's the most professional man in the world, so if anyone watching this knows Kiefer, weigh in, write hashtag Kiefer good or hashtag Kiefer bad, and see what happens. Number 1. Rachel McAdams. The Notebook is considered to be a great romantic movie, one of the greatest of all time, in fact. Oddly enough, the on-screen couple did not get along at all while filming. Rachel McAdams and her co-star Ryan Gosling would constantly fight on set and seem to have completely opposite ideas on how most of the scenes should play out. One day in particular was pretty exciting for anyone not involved, all the drama watchers on set enjoying their free tea. Ryan called over the director and demanded that Rachel be replaced by another actress to read her lines. In front of 150 crew members, Ryan Gosling was claiming that Rachel wasn't giving him anything and the two would constantly yell at each other. Their toxic on-set feud somehow morphed into a real-life relationship that lasted for like 2 years. Anyone who's worked on the set of this film blames them for constant schedule setbacks and creating an overall difficult work environment. So honestly, we don't know who the meanest one was there, Rachel or Ryan. You be the judge.
Coming in number 10 today, we have Megan Fox. Back in 2009, Transformers star Megan Fox would be branded as dumb, ungracious, rude, and an unbearable actress by crew members of the multi-million-dollar film franchise. As soon as the actor came out to diss the director, Michael Bay, by claiming that he objectified her on the set, the furious crew members who have stayed anonymous would post a long open letter to Megan on the director's official website and signed it as the loyal Transformers crew. In it, they tore into Megan as they labeled her as a second-rate Angelina Jolie who was disliked across the set by her diva-like behavior. The letter has since been removed from the site, but not before thousands of fans saw it. In the letter, the crew would claim that Michael made Megan the next Angelina Jolie, but as time went on, the crew noticed that she was no Angelina because Angelina was professional and Megan was as dumb as a rock in both Transformers movies. The crew also went on to call her the grump of the set and claimed that she was the most ungracious person anyone could ever fathom. While the crew tried to welcome her, she just became really rude and later twisted the story when she was fired from the set for her poor behavior. Coming at number 9, we have Tom Cruise. Since 2019, film sets have had some pretty strict guidelines to protect everyone working on the set, and while many people were stuck inside, the entertainment industry was the only thing keeping people's hopes and spirits alive. So it was pretty understandable when Tom Cruise caught members of the Mission Impossible 7 set messing around. He expressed his frustrations, but the way he chose to do it was a little out there and really improper. As first reported by The Sun, after Cruise saw 2 of the members standing too close to one another in front of a computer screen, he told the crew, "If I see you do it again, you're effing gone." In the audio obtained by The Sun, Cruise could be heard saying, "We are the gold standard. They're back there in Hollywood making movies right now because of us, because they believe in us and what we're doing. I'm on the phone with every effing studio at night, insurance companies, producers, and they're looking at us and using us to make their movies. We are creating thousands of jobs, you mother effers. I don't ever want to see it again, ever." Cruise took the 2019 situation seriously, and that's why he was so strict about enforcing the guidelines on set and scowled the crew for taking advantage of the safe environment that the team in place helped create. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Number 8, Lea Michele. It seems like Lea Michele was such a complete diva on the set of Glee that she had zero respect when it came to her cast and crew members. The actor who has been at the center of racism after she was called out by former co-star Samantha Ware on Twitter, Ima Edwards, who was featured in the 6th season on the series, then come out to say that she heard from multiple people that Lea called extras cockroaches behind the scenes. While Lea went on to treat many of her co-stars and crew members poorly, they would even describe working with Lea was like working in their own personal hell, and it really made them question their jobs in the entertainment industry. It's also been said that Michelle even treated the crew members poorly as she would micromanage the set and tell people how to do their jobs, and she would even throw tantrums and hold sets up for hours, forcing crew and co-stars to work long-hour days. Number 7. Christian Bale. During the production of the 2009 sequel Terminator Salvation film, lead actor Christian Bale would be caught on tape having a meltdown. Just a few months after the film debuted, the audio recording would surface, and it was clear that it was made without the actor's knowledge, as he was shocked to know he was exposed by an unnamed person on the set. In the audio, Christian could be heard going off on the film's cinematographer Shane Hurlbut, who had walked onto the scene to check a light during the filming of a scene. This apparently was the second time that he had done it, and Bale became incensed, hitting Shane with a handful of F-bombs as he threatened to smash his lighting equipment if he did it one more time. What made matters worse is that Christian even threatened to quit the film if Shane committed this offense one more time without being fired. For Shane, on his part, he was very apologetic, but then again, he couldn't get into a shouting match with the film star and not get fired. Christian would then later come out apologizing for the incident, but the two haven't worked on the same project since. Number 6. Katherine Heigl. Katherine Heigl was at the height of her career when she joined Grey's Anatomy. However, after she decided to leave the show, it seems like the star would find herself blacklisted from sets due to her poor behavior. With cast and crew members back in 2007, Katherine would badmouth her own movie Knocked Up, which would prove that she was really hard to work with. However, it wouldn't be until 2008 when Katherine would really burn all her bridges in Hollywood after she was nominated for an Emmy and withdrew her name for consideration because she felt like the Grey's Anatomy season didn't give her enough material to be nominated. She would then come out to say in a statement that she didn't feel like she was given enough material to warrant an Emmy nomination. In an effort to maintain the integrity of the Academy organization, she was withdrawing her name, and the whole world would be shocked. But an Emmy nomination is an Emmy, and if you feel like you aren't given enough material, you still take the nomination, because sometimes these nominations only come around once in your lifetime, and some people never even find themselves being nominated. Since the Grey's Anatomy creator Shonda Rhimes has been greatly offended, and fans have been totally turned off by Katherine's behavior, as Shonda worked really hard for her show, and this Emmy nomination was a big deal. Number 5. Thomas Gibson. Actor Thomas Gibson would find himself being fired from the CBS drama Criminal Minds in 2016 after 11 seasons in the wake of an on-set altercation with a producer. ABC Studios and CBS TV Studios would then come out to say in a statement that Thomas was dismissed from Criminal Minds and that his character's exit would be addressed in the show at a later date. With Gibson's character only appearing in 2 episodes that year, the actor was set to never appear in a show again after the studio conducted an internal review of an incident that alleged Thomas kicked a producer on the show, who TMZ identified to be Virgil Williams. It's also been said in the past Thomas has been known to have violent outbursts. This even included one with an assistant director in 2010 who claims Thomas shoved him. This behavior would then result in the studio to send Thomas to anger management classes. However, after the studio realized even the classes weren't working with Thomas's behavior, they decided just to let him go from the show altogether. Number 4. Mike Myers. While The Cat in the Hat was a children's show we all enjoyed watching come to life, apparently Mike Myers made the reality a daily nightmare for the cast and crew members. Amy Hill would then come out to describe how bad it actually was to work with Mike. Not only would Mike be rude to the cast and crew, but he actually would have them sit around all day waiting for him to show up on set. He also made the set hire someone to follow him around while he was in a cat costume and feed him chocolates. Whenever he needed the chocolate, the guy would run over and hand feed the chocolates to him on the set. Well, one can only imagine what it would look like to see a grown man in a costume running around a set being fed chocolates by another human being. I can only imagine what the snack wrangler would put on their resume to describe that very job. Number 3. Christina Aguilera. Sources close to the Voice production team have claimed that Christina Aguilera was nothing but a woman of people, as she was extremely rude to both the crew and the fans on the show. The sources would also say that Christina didn't want anyone to get close to her. If someone went to shake her hand, she would even yell at them, not to touch her. While it's not uncommon for celebrities to want their personal space, Christina was just taking things a little too far when she started to freak out and yell at people to get out of her space, but they were only just standing in the same room as her. The crew also went on to note that it was actually pretty unpleasant to work with the diva, as she was really demanding and told everyone they should respect her. While the crew tried to deal with the situation the best they could, Christina just kept continuing to go on and ruin her image with her relentless wicked witch vibe. While the crew didn't want to hate her, they would state out of all the artists they have worked with, she seemed to be the least pleasant and compassionate out of all the bunch, and it was disheartening. Number 2, Ben Stiller. Ben Stiller is one of the few major celebrities that you rarely hear anything good or bad about, but maybe that's because he's secretly just a wonderful man and likes to keep his bad behavior on the down low. However, many people who have claimed Ben Stiller is great to work with, the Inquirer would draw a portrait that wasn't so full of sunshine and rainbows. While Ben was working on the set of The Little Fockers, he definitely got on someone's bad side as the cast and crew made some pretty disturbing allegations when it came to his behavior. Apparently, when working on the set, Ben would earn the nickname Little Focker as he alienated most of the cast and crew on the film in his vain, self-absorbed behavior, and when he wasn't obsessing over his looks, he would be throwing temper tantrums and screaming at the underlings. Ben even would go on to fire an assistant director and demanded star treatment for his entourage, personal chefs, hair and makeup minders, and refused to interact with the underlings unless it was to yell at them. His ego has gone off the charts, and he even went off on a female director for a perceived mistake and screamed at the top of his lungs that he never wanted to work with her again before storming off the set. He then refused to come back until she was gone, and the set let her go the next day and brought in a male replacement to appease Ben. And coming in number 1 today, we have Bill Murray. In April, Bill Murray's film would be shut down for an investigation into his alleged inappropriate behavior. That set a dark tone amid a resurface on set stories that kept Hollywood whispering for decades. In 1991, it said that Disney was even forced to hire bodyguards to protect the cast and crew of the 1991's What About Bob film, after the actor hurled a glass ashtray at Richard Dreyfuss and threatened to throw a female producer across a parking lot. Despite his enduring status of being a beloved Hollywood bad boy, Murray has repeatedly been accused of violently clashing with his co-stars, from butt-heading to inexcusable and unacceptable language on numerous sets stretching all the way back to the 1970s. It's even been said after multiple outbursts on the What About Bob set, everyone would walk off production and fly back to LA, and the film only resumed after Disney hired some bodyguards to physically separate Bill from his co-stars and crew members in between takes. At number 10, we have Ariana Grande. Ariana once got banned for life from a donut shop after the star was caught on camera licking a bunch of donuts she didn't pay for. In 2015, the star entered the Wolfie Donut shop with some friends. When the clerk went to the back room, Grande would proceed to lick some donuts that she didn't pay for. Later, the owner of the restaurant watched the video and would end up banning her from the location for life. They would also go to try press charges against her. However, nothing ever went through with the charges because the incident would have only cost $4 for the donut she didn't pay for. The owner, however, was very upset with Ariana and said not even an apology from Grande would have caused him to change his mind. Unfortunately for Grande, the incident would have caused her a chance to be booked to play a gig at the White House, and she would later go on to make jokes about herself for the incident. Number 9, Britney Spears. After having a pretty public mental breakdown, Britney Spears made a spectacle of smearing food across her face in a restaurant. Britney was described as acting weird by fellow staff and celebrities present at the time of the incident. While sitting at her table, Britney started to play dress up with her dinner. While many were left feeling concerned and disturbed by the incident, the staff were quick to check on the star and escorted her from her table and out of the restaurant. Britney would then be later informed that she was no longer welcome in the restaurant or on the hotel grounds itself. Now, her behavior herself wasn't a sin or rude behavior, however, how she portrayed herself in public and how she never issued an apology for her actions definitely made some people raise some eyebrows. Luckily for Britney, after she cleaned herself up, the restaurant lifted its ban of 2 years, and she was later pictured celebrating her 28th birthday. Now, if you're enjoying this video, video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. At number 8, we have Ruby Rose. Ruby Rose was once kicked out of a bar in New Orleans for allegedly throwing fries at the waitstaff. The star was described by the owner as being a child because she threw a big tantrum in the middle of the restaurant. After she threw the tantrum, the staff booted her from the establishment, where she then started to curse out the bartender and even began to throw food at the staff member. Ruby later would write a Facebook post where she didn't deny throwing the fries. However, she did explain why she did it. Ruby claimed that they waited 60 minutes for the fries and over 90 minutes for food that never showed up to the table. When they asked the bartender what was taking so long, he offered Ruby and her table some free drinks. When the star told the bartender no thanks, she said he started to mock her and her friends. At one point, the bartender even told her to go call her sponsor, and that's when the star reacted to throwing a french fry at the staff member. Ruby would later say she regretted how she acted and maybe she wouldn't throw french fries again. But maybe next time the bartender wouldn't be so insensitive. Number 7, Stuart Raw. Not only has Stuart been kicked out of Nobu, but he's also been banned from the popular Japanese restaurant. Back in 2012, the New York Post reported that the billionaire was banned for life as he tried to bribe people to give up their table for him. He then continued to call the manager Sharon, demeaning names, while he was escorted out of the restaurant. However, the drama wouldn't stop there. Stuart would then send an email to Nobu co-owner Drew demanding that the manager be fired and seat some big name celebrities such as Leonardo DiCaprio, Alicia Keys, and Mark Wahlberg. This also isn't the first time the billionaire hasn't played well with others, as the star has allegedly started fights with Tiger Woods and has even been thrown out of a celebrity Hamptons party after being labeled a stalker. If we learned anything from Stuart, it's that just because you have money, it doesn't give you the right for a free pass. Number 6, Jamie Kennedy. Jamie Kennedy once helped save a woman in a car crash after getting kicked out of a restaurant in Houston. After performing at the Houston Improv, the comedian decided to head over to the Yard House for some drinks with his friends. However, the management staff at the Yard House had to ask Jamie to leave and proceeded to escort the star out of the building for using profanity with the waitstaff. After leaving the establishment without a fight, Jamie decided he wasn't ready to go home for the night and proceeded to head to a different bar. Around 2:40 a.m., when the star was walking to the next location, a car flipped over up onto the sidewalk where they were walking just 10 feet in front of them. Jamie and his entourage then proceeded to help the two women out of the smoking car. Number 5, Jamie Foxx. Stars witnessed Jamie Foxx get kicked out of a restaurant while he was assaulted at his table. Jamie was reportedly having dinner at the restaurant when a customer approached his table and complained to him that him and his friends were being too loud. When the group proceeded to not care, the person yelled, "You don't want to mess with me? I'm from New York." Jamie then fired back, "F you, I'm from Oakland." The person then began to charge at Foxx, and some witnesses even said Foxx began to fight back and took the person down. Both parties were eventually thrown out of the restaurant for their bad behavior. Number 4, we have Dennis Rodman. Charles Oakley had to once kick Dennis Rodman out of his steakhouse for eating off of other people's plates. Charles said he agreed to meet with Dennis at his steakhouse after the two made an appearance at a Miami event together. However, before he arrived, he got a phone call from his manager telling him to get to the location as fast as he could. When Charles arrived to the location, he looked through the window and saw Dennis eating, then moving to the next table and eating some more. Charles went straight up to Dennis and asked him what he was doing. Dennis responded by saying, "I'm relaxing and trying to entertain." Now, Charles clearly wasn't impressed with the star's action and proceeded to kick him out of the restaurant. He then told the basketball star to never come near him again, destroying their relationship off the court. What Dennis thought was a joke clearly wasn't, and he should have known better than to do that in a high-class restaurant. At number 3, we have Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage was once kicked out of a restaurant after being mistaken for being homeless. Now, the Oscar winner was at the Laurie Prime Rib restaurant located in Las Vegas. In a video later obtained by The Sun, you could see the star sitting on the restaurant sofa in a drunken state. Now, it's easy to see why the restaurant would have mistaken the star first as being homeless, considering he was wearing cheetah print PJ pants and he had no shoes on. While waiting for the table, he was acting rowdy and proceeded to get into an altercation with the staff. Even after being escorted out of the restaurant, Cage continued to argue with the staff while trying to go back in. While Nicholas did ignore to comment about the incident, he did say his work did help him avoid getting into situations like the one at the restaurant. Number 2, Jenna Fisher. Now, Jenna actually wasn't kicked out of a restaurant in real life. However, her character Pam in the comedy show The Office was. It all started when Jenna decided to tweet a photo of her pictured in front of the restaurant where she asked if she should try to go in. Pam in the show was so tipsy she continually began to fall out of her chair and displayed some pretty rude behavior. It got to the point that the restaurant owner stated she was no longer welcome back at the restaurant chain ever again. Number 1. James Corden. Recently, James Corden was banned from a famous New York City restaurant after being a jerk to wait staff. The owner of the restaurant, Keith McNally, posted to his Instagram to state the comedian was effectively banned from his famous bistro after he became one of the most abusive customers to enter location since it opened. So you're probably wondering what led James to be banned. Well, Keith detailed 2 examples of how the star misconducted himself at the restaurant, which led to his ban being indefinite. The first example is he was extremely nasty to servers, demanded drinks to come to his table and that they be comped altogether. The second incident took place when James' wife, Julia, received her egg yolk omelet only to find that there was some egg whites mixed in. The omelet was then remade and brought back to the table with fries instead of a salad. James then continued to yell at the staff that they didn't know how to do their jobs. Eventually, the situation was resolved when the floor manager decided to step in. James has yet responded to Keith's allegation. However, if one thing's clear, he definitely won't be eating at this location for a while.
At number 10, Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf is sort of known around Hollywood for his attitude. He's had quite a few outbursts in his day, but I'm going to tell you about one restaurant freakout that was just so uncalled for and really disrespectful. Back in 2017, Shia had a bit of a meltdown at a bowling alley restaurant, and I'm guessing it was all chalked up to him being hangry or something because Shia flipped out at staff members over some french fries. While at the restaurant in the bowling alley, he went up to order some french fries, and when he was refused, probably because of how rude and aggressive he was being, things got out of hand pretty quickly. In a video captured of the incident, you see Shia behind the bar yelling at one of the staff members about his french fries. The bartender was feeling so threatened by Shia's behavior that he was holding a large bottle of Grey Goose vodka as a sort of defensive tactic. It looked like he was ready to smack the actor with the bottle if he got too close, you know? And it even took him to the point of angrily yelling that the bartender was, quote, an effing racist. After being escorted from the premises, Shia kept saying that they effed up and demanded that someone called the police, even though it was definitely unnecessary. There are those who were there that night who said that the actor was drinking a lot that night and that his outburst was probably fueled by his alcoholism, something that the actor has been dealing with. He was very rude and aggressive towards the people in the establishment, and it probably left people with a very different view of the actor. At number 9, Stuart Rahr. Billionaire and philanthropist Stuart Rahr is no longer welcome at a popular restaurant thanks to his poor behavior. After throwing a tantrum at Midtown's Nobu 57 back in 2012, Stuart Rahr is no longer welcome at that location nor any other Nobu restaurants because of how rude and disruptive he was towards staff and other guests. It was reported that Rahr made quite a scene after not being seated at his favorite table. I mean, there were plenty of other tables to sit at, but this was his table, and those other tables just wouldn't do. According to sources, the billionaire was even caught trying to bribe guests by paying for their meal, which could have cost upwards of $1,000 in order to secure his favorite spot, and when he got caught, he fired back at a manager using some pretty colorful language. According to restaurant staff, he arrived late at the restaurant, and upon his arrival, he marched up to the table and demanded that the people sitting there leave because it was his spot. But the drama just doesn't end there though. He then sent an all-caps email which included some pretty harsh language to the restaurant executives and added several A-list celebrities to the thread. And then he went back to the restaurant to harass the staff even more. In the end, he ended up getting banned for life, and no one was quick to forget how rude he was that day. Now, before I go any further, I would like to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video and also subscribe to Lindsay Ivan's brand new reaction channel, Peach. It launched launches at the end of May, so go subscribe and tell her that we sent you. At number 8, Ruby Rose. Now, one person that you don't normally think of as rude is model and actress Ruby Rose, but apparently she can be quite rude and disruptive at dining establishments. Back in 2016, Ruby Rose apparently caused such a ruckus at a restaurant that the restaurant's owner had to kick her out. While dining at the Rebellion Bar and Urban Kitchen, Ruby was really rude to one of the restaurant servers and threw a bit of a tantrum. She even threw french fries at the staff member. Ruby had a bit of a Karen moment that day because she was upset about how long she had been waiting for her meal. According to Ruby, she had been waiting in the restaurant for over 90 minutes for her food, which would already anger someone, but to make matters worse, she was also allegedly being egged on by the bartender. The bartender was allegedly mocking and making fun of Ruby for refusing drinks, and they even made fun of her sobriety. So between the rude bartender and the long wait, Ruby just lost her patience and got really mad. She lost her cool and threw some food around, so maybe her anger was a little warranted because of how she was treated by the bartender, but throwing things at staff was a little extreme and very rude. What do you guys think? Was her outburst uncalled for, or would you react in a similar way? At number 7, Usher. I didn't really think singer Usher was one of those stuck-up Hollywood types, but apparently he is. According to a service worker who's waited on Usher on many occasions, he's known to walk into restaurants and other establishments with the intention of being waited on hand and foot. And not just even for himself, but for his entourage as well. I mean, there's nothing wrong with expecting quality service, but sometimes that mindset can go a little too far. Even though he expects the best service money can buy, it turns out that he has no intention of buying, as he's known to skip out on paying the bill by either leaving before the bill is given or making someone else pay for it. He's also one of those celebrities who's pulled the "do you know who I am" card, as he's used that as an excuse to get out of being carded when ordering an alcoholic beverage. On top of that, he's known to be a pretty lousy tipper, either tipping nothing or tipping with a signed CD or photo. He might make good music, but he makes for a horrible dining room guest. At number 6, Tommy Lee. Back in 2019, musician Tommy Lee and his wife were thrown out of a high-end restaurant in New Orleans after being unruly and rude with staff members. According to sources from TMZ, the couple were looking to dine at Emeril Lagasse's restaurant when the couple got into an altercation with staff members. Tommy and his wife entered the restaurant wearing hats, and according to the restaurant's dress code, they aren't allowed to wear them, so they were simply asked to take the hats off. This is when things took a turn, as Tommy got very upset with this rule and threw some colorful language about. He eventually moved his hat as they were seated at their table, but things escalated even further. The couple were then confronted about their use of profanity in the restaurant because it was rude, and staff members demanded that they take accountability for their actions. This made Tommy even more frustrated with the staff, and after a long spew of profanities, the restaurant's employees were forced to remove the pair from the premises. They eventually found somewhere else to go, but their rudeness was certainly uncalled for. All that was asked of them was to simply follow the restaurant's dress code. At number 5, Ariana Grande. One celebrity that you don't often see getting into conflicts is Ariana Grande. For the most part, the singer keeps to herself and doesn't really cause much high-profile drama, but she has had her moments in the past, and one in particular that was very rude. Ariana was caught in a scandal in 2015 after being exposed for her behavior while visiting a bakery in California. Though it may not be technically a traditional restaurant, it's still an eating establishment, so it counts. Surveillance cameras in the donut shop caught the singer licking donuts while the employees weren't looking, and even caught her yelling about her distaste for America's eating habits. The footage was leaked and shared by TMZ, and after the footage went viral, the owner of the donut shop spoke out about Ariana and that she was also caught spitting on some of the donuts as well, and said that she was reportedly very rude to staff working there, demanding that the person helping her keep bringing out the pastries that the other employees were baking. As if that was all, the shop's owner also said that the donuts that were defiled by Ariana were unknowingly sold to other customers that day. So not only did she disrespect the staff and their baked goods, but also the other customers, though they might not have known it. At number 4, Kit Harington. Though he played a noble man of the Night's Watch on Game of Thrones, actor Kit Harington was less than chivalrous at a bar in NYC, resulting in him having to be removed from the establishment by staff members. According to a report from TMZ in 2018, the King in the North was having a night out at a bar playing pool and drinking to excess and being quite rude to people. During one of his pool matches, it is said that the actor got very unruly and belligerent and was asked to leave the premises. premises, which he did. But a little while later, he came back to the establishment, and at that point, he had to be forcibly removed from the bar. Kit was apparently being rude and disrespectful to those working there as well as other patrons, as his drunken state caused him to act on some less than kind impulses. Since this accident, Kit has come out to address his excessive drinking, saying that he was having a hard time coping with the end of Game of Thrones. After filming wrapped on the HBO show, Kit actually checked himself into rehab for his own well-being and sought out therapy to help him cope with his evolving career. It's good to know that this event caused him to take a step back and reevaluate his choices, but people probably still saw him as another rude celebrity star in that moment. At number 3, Britney Spears. Looking back on it now, this isn't something that should have been made fun of in the media, but back in 2007, during her public fall from grace, Britney Spears was berated by the public after she put on quite a spectacle while dining at the Chateau Marmont. Britney was seen as a rude and unruly guest, as diners were shocked to see Britney smearing her face with gourmet food in a show of inappropriate behavior. As a result, she was removed from the premises and subsequently banned from the restaurant. People who witnessed Britney's behavior said that they wouldn't even expect this kind of behavior from a teenager, calling Britney's display childish and uncalled for, and even added that royalty had dined at the Chateau Marmont, saying that her behavior was absolutely unacceptable. Apparently, when Britney arrived at the hotel, she looked out of it, but of course, instead of helping her, everyone just watched the spectacle and laughed when she was berated in the media because of it. On top of all the other names Britney was being called at the time, rude became a new way to describe the struggling pop star. At number 2, Lea Michele. I think we all know by now that Lea Michele is a rude celebrity. We learned this last year when she was exposed by countless co-workers for her horrible on-set behavior, but she's also been exposed by restaurant staff for being a rude guest. One waiter's horror story of serving the actress tells us that she was once continuously harassing them while helping her order, while she made fun of them while they were trying to explain the dish's ingredients. Lea apparently insisted that she didn't understand what the waiter was saying, and then went on to complain to several of the restaurant's managers and higher-ups. To make matters more Karen-y, Lea also apparently sent her father to go knock on the kitchen window to berate the cooks 20 minutes after they ordered, demanding that they receive their food because they had been waiting for, quote, hours. This rude behavior doesn't really surprise me coming from Lea, because after hearing her former co-workers' horror stories, I now realize that with Lea, anything is possible. And finally, at number 1, Kendall Jenner. Being that she is a member of the Jenner family, rude behavior doesn't really surprise me. Back in 2014, a story broke about how Kendall had been allegedly very rude at a restaurant, ending with her throwing money at a staff member. The story here goes that she and Hailey Baldwin was dining at a restaurant together when they allegedly left without paying for their meal. Their bill came up to about $60, so it wasn't really that much, but it still doesn't mean that you can get away with not paying for it. A staff member then chased after the pair as they walked away from the restaurant, and when they were stopped and asked to pay for their meal, Kendall allegedly pulled out a couple of $20 bills from her bag and threw it at the staff member. That was seriously rude and certainly uncalled for.
Starting off our list today at number 10, we have Liam Hemsworth. Thanks to Miley Cyrus's new hit song Flowers, it's been number 1 on the Billboard for 3 weeks, and because the song is so popular, it resurfaced a couple of clips that shows Liam Hemsworth visibly cringing at his ex-wife Miley Cyrus on the red carpet during interviews. In one video, Miley could be seen twerking on Liam at a Vanity Fair Oscars after party in February of 2019. As the two were being interviewed, Liam then backed away quickly and looked incredibly uncomfortable as she danced for the cameras, to which he responded by saying, "Don't do it, don't do it, you're scarring everyone on the red carpet." Miley then immediately stopped and glanced awkwardly at the camera. In another clip uploaded, the couple could be seen attending the Avengers Endgame premiere, and the singer tried to pose cheekily with her husband, and she made this move to lick his neck, and Liam was displeased and told Miley to behave for once. And when he went on to cling onto her waist, she seemed to be very annoyed at his gesture and pushed his hand away, which resulted in him walking away while she continued posing on her own. Number 9, Dakota Johnson. What was supposed to be a sweet mother and daughter moment during the Oscars red carpet show ended up becoming one of the night's most awkward interviews, when ABC host Laura Spencer asked the actress Melanie Griffith if she was going to see her daughter's racy movie 50 Shades of Grey. The actress would then quickly respond no before her daughter Dakota Johnson scowled and said, "Maybe one day." However, then her mom would respond by saying, "I don't think I can. I think it would be strange. Well, she's a good actress. I don't need to see that to know she's good." The subject was obviously still a sore subject and the sticking point between the pair, as Dakota then jumped into a pouting teenager for a moment before snapping at her mother by saying, "Alright, you don't have to see it, Jesus Christ." The uncomfortable exchange between the two then set social media on fire, inspiring some harsh criticism and some pretty serious tweets. However, near the end of the night, Melanie would opt to tell Dakota that she would watch the film just so she could smooth things over between her and her daughter. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Coming number 8, we have Shailene Woodley. So during most interviews, Shailene Woodley is always known for being really blunt when it comes to her answering questions, especially when the questions make her feel uncomfortable. During one incident on the red carpet, Shailene had a pretty awkward encounter that caused her to be dumbfounded when it came to the reporter's question. In the interview, the reporter looked at the actor and then out of nowhere asked her if she was hungry before noting that she herself was hungry. Shailene then reacted in a way that was pretty awkward and rude in the moment, as she looked at her interviewer like she was crazy and said, "Well, you should probably eat." I don't think any of us really blame Shailene in this situation for being rude, as it was such a weird question and comment to come from a reporter. Not to mention, there were so many questions that the reporter could have asked her, but she chose to ask the actor if she was hungry, because you aren't going to get a genuinely nice answer to that question. Number 7, Selena Gomez. During a red carpet interview in 2017 Billboard Woman in Music event, Selena would be asked about how Justin Bieber impacted the person she is today, and the singer and actor responded by being a little standoffish when she said, "I don't think anyone else cares. I think for me, what's been great is that I've been able to live the life I wanted for myself, and it doesn't always look the way people think it should. But it's not really my concern anymore. Look, my family is great, my health is great, I love deeply, and that's just who I am. I'm not really ashamed." While the actress claimed that no one really cared about her and Justin's relationship, Twitter reactions would definitely prove otherwise to Selena's response, as one fan would say, "Selena Gomez and Justin Bieber will definitely last this time if they're both on the same page romantically." And then another fan would note, "So as dumb as this sounds, I'm so happy when I heard Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez are back together. It's that relationship I basically grew up with and I feel as if I'm invested in. My heart was so full when I heard the news. Even today, people are still fond on the idea that the former couple may cross paths yet again in the future, and it's gotten to the point that every time Justin is happy with another woman, his fans still chant Selena's name." Number 6, Jim Carrey. Back in 2017, Jim Carrey was clearly just really bored, so the comedian decided he would randomly show up to a New York red carpet event. While on the red carpet, he made his way to a reporter, and then he ended up telling her that the only reason he showed up to the event is because he was trying to find the most meaningless event he could attend. If the interview wouldn't get any more funnier due to his odd behavior, he then went on this really weird rant where he stated that icons and personalities don't really exist by saying, "I don't believe in icons, I don't believe in personalities. I believe that peace lies beyond personality, an invitation in disguise, beyond the red S on your chest that makes bullets bounce off. I believe that it's deeper than that. I believe we're a field of energy dancing for itself, and I don't care." He then turned into one of his comedic characters before walking away when he came to the conclusion to his rant and said, "We don't matter." Number 5, Kim Kardashian. Back in 2019, Kim Kardashian awkwardly interrupted her older sister during an interview on the E! People's Choice Awards red carpet. When E! anchor Juliana Rancic asked Kourtney Kardashian who designed her bra-bearing glittering suit, she began to say she didn't plan her answer in advance, but then she was cut off when Kim decided to lunge in front of her and start to hype their new fragrance collaboration by saying, "All that matters is that we're wearing KKW Diamond. We're all wearing that." She then went on to tell Kourtney, "I was saving you since you didn't know who you were wearing. That was my save." Kourtney then went on to correct Kim by saying, "No, it was Naeem Khan. I just didn't know how to pronounce it." Despite the awkward moment, Kourtney didn't appear to mind the publicity publicity, but Kim didn't need to interrupt her sister's interview to support her new line, as the world was already talking about it. Number 4, Jennifer Lawrence. So back in 2012, Josh Hutcherson was in an interview on the red carpet for the Catching Fire press tour when Jennifer Lawrence thought it would be a good idea to punk her co-star while he was in mid-interview by asking him how his rash was doing. Later, Josh would then open up about the incident on the Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, and there he would reveal that Jennifer had this history of punking him, and while making rounds on the red carpet, he then admitted at one time mid-interview she breezed past him and asked him, "Hey Josh, how's the rash doing?" Josh then looked extremely embarrassed before he went on to note that Jennifer was actually really crazy. The reporter then went on to question Josh about the incident, and he said, "Oh, my rash is doing fantastic. Don't worry about that. I love Jennifer." The actor was obviously really uncomfortable with Jennifer's uncalled move, that he wanted to end the interview and opted to say, "I gotta go back to take care of the rash," before running away from his interview. Number 3, Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj is known for speaking her mind, so back in 2013, after she had a mouthful to say after a not-so-good interview with Access Hollywood's correspondent, Laura Saltman, the Anaconda rapper would then throw some serious shade at the reporter on the red carpet after Laura asked the rapper about her recent Twitter rant, which included catty words about fellow American Idol judge Mariah Carey, and she snapped back and refused to answer the question. When Laura asked, "Are you looking forward to the end of American Idol? Because I know there were Twitter comments you made today that caused quite a stir," Nicki would then respond by saying, "That question didn't even make sense, so if you want to insinuate what you're talking about, I'm not going to." Before Laura could even respond, Nicki would then roll her eyes, say goodnight, and walk away. In light of the diss, Saltman then decided to express her feelings in a blog posted to Access Hollywood's website, where she labeled Nicki as a mean girl and cyberbullying, perpetuating the problems of social media. Number 2, Amber Heard. Back in 2015, Amber would be captured giving her mom a stern lesson on the red carpet about the rules she has to follow as her mom joined her at a glitzy film premiere. At the time, Amber was still married to Johnny Depp, and she decided to bring her mother along for the ride at a screening of Johnny's new flick at the time, Black Mass, at Toronto's International Film Festival. Her proud mom then watched from the sidelines as Amber oozed in this striking black dress in front of the camera. However, the actress was less than impressed when she spotted her mom talking to a nearby cameraman. In a video captured, the star's mom could be seen in the video identifying herself to a man from Kiss 92.5, where she proudly gushed, saying she was Amber's mom. Amber then stormed towards her mother and interrupted the interview. And in the video, you could see Amber's face. It was so stony that she may as well have been embarrassed by her mom in front of friends at a playground. She then quickly grabbed her mother, gave her a warning by saying never make eye contact. And coming in at number 1 today, we have Nicole Kidman. Nicole Kidman wasn't necessarily rude, but she did get a pretty funny response from Tom Hiddleston when she briefly interrupted him during an interview at the Golden Globes one year. Tom was in the middle of his interview talking to Liza Koshy about one of his shows, and Nicole decided to insert herself in between Tom and Liza and then quickly said, "That's enough talking." While Nicole was clearly just pulling Tom's leg, at first he was a bit taken back by Nicole's actions, and it did take him a bit to notice that Nicole was doing a quirky little bit. Once the actor realized Nicole was only joking, he then quickly joined in on the fun. He then conducted a quick impromptu moment in the interview with Nicole, and it was definitely a moment that was awkward for a second, but then everybody laughed it off.
At number 10, Jake Paul. Once upon a time, Jake Paul was a Disney star. It's easy to forget he was once on the Disney Channel because he's now focused on harassing boxers, but yeah, he did have a brief career on the network. Back in 2017, he was one of the stars of the Disney Channel show Bizaardvark, and though he and Disney got a lot of success out of the show, things ended on a sour note as too much bad press ended up with Jake losing his job. Around this time, Jake was often in the news being slammed and criticized for his stunts and constant filming because of his Team 10 mates, and he had been causing quite a number of disturbances in his residential area. Jake and the Team 10 crew were lighting backyards on fire and causing a lot of ruckus to the point where Jake's neighbors started issuing complaints about the noise and destruction going on in the area. Jake's neighbors had police issuing warnings and fines for all sorts of things, and whenever Jake would get in trouble, the media reported on it, and it all got back to Disney. Jake ended up losing his job all because of the trouble he was causing, and honestly, the neighbors couldn't care less. To them, he got what he deserved observed, and when he finally moved out of the area, they were thrilled. I couldn't imagine living next to the Team 10 house with all the fans coming around and the constant noise. Jake surely was not very hospitable then. At number 9, Catherine Zeta-Jones. I did a series of videos exposing mean celebrities, and one of the people I exposed was Catherine Zeta-Jones. I've talked about how she's known to be mean and dismissive towards fans, but those aren't the only people to be rubbed the wrong way by the actress. Some neighbors have exposed the actress for being pretty rude. One person even shared a story about how Catherine went on a vacation and was renting a condo for a short time while visiting a different city, and she specifically demanded that the other tenants in the building be banned from using the building's gym while she was staying there. As one would expect, this did not go over well with other tenants. No one wants to be told that they can't use the facilities that they pay to enjoy. Those tenants said that she acted very entitled, and none of them were fans of hers from that moment on. If you find out that you'll be living near Catherine Zeta-Jones, I would advise that you find another place to stay. Now, before I carry on with the list, I'd like to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and also head on over to my gaming channel Viper Girl if you're looking for some new fun gaming content to enjoy, and subscribe while you're there. At number 8, Justin Bieber. I think we are all aware of Justin Bieber's destructive phase, right? Around 2014, Justin was constantly in the news for getting into fights, getting into trouble, and just really going a bit off the rails. A lot of people were complaining about Justin's behavior, including his neighbors. One of the biggest scandals that Justin was involved in during that time came about after he reportedly caused over $20,000 worth of damage to his neighbor's house. Neighbors accused the singer and his friends of egging their multi-million-dollar mansion, and they were furious, as anyone would be. This was all taken to court, where Justin pleaded no contest to the misdemeanor charge, and he got away with not facing a criminal charge in the case. Justin also paid $80,000 to his neighbor in restitution. Things died down a bit between him and his neighbor until 2016, when the neighbor reclassified his lawsuit against the singer, claiming that, quote, things got nasty between them. He said that Justin was a bully, and according to the neighbor, he had been, quote, spitting at, punching, and bullying other members of the public with impunity for years. I'm sure that nowadays Justin is a little nicer to his neighbors, but back then he was really rude. At number 7, Chris Brown. Chris Brown has certainly had his fair share of conflicts, from fighting workers at a gym to having outbursts on various sets, and even his 2009 Rihanna incident, but there's another category of people that the singer has also offended, and those are his neighbors. In 2016, the singer had a day-long standoff with SWAT. This all came about after a woman alleged that Chris had threatened her with a firearm. The woman was able to get away, but eventually the police were called about the incident, but Chris refused to let the police in his home without a warrant, so they set up camp, and that's when SWAT moved in. There were helicopters flying overhead, and the singer even allegedly threw a duffel bag full of firearms and illicit substances out the window. The standoff lasted for hours and had neighbors in the area upset with Chris for causing such a scene. He was eventually arrested, but if you think his problems with his neighbors were over, think again. Chris also faced complaints from neighbors after reportedly driving his ATV around the neighborhood recklessly and doing donuts in the street. If you're thinking about becoming the singer's neighbor, just don't. At number 6, Drake. Drake may be Canadian, but he surely doesn't have that polite Canadian energy. Drake once made enemies with his neighbors in Hidden Hills, California, when they started making noise complaints in response to the rapper's loud and extravagant parties. According to those in the neighborhood, Drake's parties would often go until very early in the morning, causing many of them to lose sleep. After receiving one too many noise complaints, Drake took action, but not in a way that anyone was expecting. Instead of dialing back the parties and being more respectful of the noise level in the neighborhood, Drake decided that flexing was the best solution, so he bought the house next door. He spent $2.8 million to simply expand his land so that those in the immediate vicinity wouldn't have to deal with his mess. He didn't want to be accountable to anyone, so he just bought his way out of the problem. I mean, that is one easy way of handling things, but I'm sure it would have been cheaper to just turn the music down. At number 5, Charlie Sheen. Actor Charlie Sheen had such a dramatic run-in with his neighbor that a lawsuit was filed over it. Charlie's show 2.5 Men was still pretty big at the time of his neighbor drama. Having had 12 seasons from 2003 to 2015, it was one of the biggest and most successful sitcoms on TV, and sometimes success brings drama. Back in 2006, 3 years into the show's run, Charlie Sheen was sued by his neighbor, a woman by the name of Ursula Auburn. She claimed that one of the characters in the show was based on her, and she was really offended by it. In her lawsuit against Charlie, she had claimed that, quote, the wacky neighbor and female stalker Rose was based on her because the character shares similarities to the way Ursula spoke, looked, and dressed in real life. Imagine being exposed like that on TV, seeing what your neighbor thinks of you while watching a dramatic version of yourself on a sitcom. As a result of all this, Ursula tried suing Charlie for, quote, no less than $1 million. The suit eventually settled out of court, and no one really knows if Charlie really did base the character off his neighbor, but it certainly made her upset. At number 4, Taylor Swift. Even though she's known for being pretty nice to people, apparently she's still managed to anger her neighbors. Really, you can't please everyone, but in this case, Taylor's actions caused a major inconvenience to the people around her. In 2013, Taylor made her neighbors pretty upset when she made some additions to her Rhode Island home. Taylor was looking to build a huge wall around her property, but to do that, she needed to have some coastline rocks moved out of the way. This disturbed the surrounding area, and neighbors weren't happy. Taylor's representative said that the movement of the rocks wasn't her choice, but that it was the government who asked her to move the rocks that had drifted into the ocean back to her property line. This was a lot of land disturbance just to build a big wall. Neighbors were not happy about the wall itself because they said that it had taken away the public access that they had enjoyed for years. I think it's safe to say that Taylor had an unpleasant welcome to the neighborhood. At number 3, Machine Gun Kelly. It seems like Machine Gun Kelly isn't just loud on stage, but also at home. You would think that he would put that loud rocker persona to rest while at home in his free time, but according to his neighbors, that couldn't be further from the truth. His neighbors have said that he's been known to host loud and crazy parties, disturbing much of his community, and he's also known to have joyrides with his friends on the block. Neighbors have also complained about loud motorcycles revving their engines at inappropriate times of the night, and he and his guests have spilled over into neighboring properties from time to time. It's also been reported that during parties, Kelly's guests have parked in neighbors' driveways and have blocked in many of the neighbors' cars as well. It seems as though he doesn't really have a sense of respect for other people's properties or quiet hours. At number 2, Natasha Lyonne. Orange is the New Black star Natasha Lyonne is certainly a nasty neighbor. She once had a serious altercation with one of her neighbors that she actually faced criminal charges for. In 2005, there was a warrant out for Natasha's arrest after she confronted her neighbor in a fit of rage. According to sources, Natasha banged on her neighbor's door, stormed into the apartment, and even ripped a mirror off the wall. The actress also allegedly told her neighbor that she was going to hurt her dog. Because of her actions, Natasha was hunted down by authorities and charged with criminal mischief, harassment, and trespassing. Luckily for her, those charges were eventually dropped, but she was ordered to pay her neighbor $2,000 in restitution. Reading about what that neighbor went through, I would have hated to have lived in that area too. Now, I'm not sure what brought on Natasha's fit of rage, but it had to have been something really intense to result in her causing so much damage to her neighbor's property. And finally, number 1, Ivanka Trump. Even the president's daughter can cause some terror in her community. Being high-profile people, you're bound to cause a scene wherever you go, and Ivanka Trump's neighbors had to learn this the hard way. Shortly after Ivanka and her husband moved to their new home after her father was elected into office, Ivanka's neighbors were already starting to complain. Because of her relationship to the then President of the United States, she and her family always had security in close proximity, and this caused a disturbance in the neighborhood because of how many people were following the family at every waking moment. According to neighbors, even having a walk in the park was a grand affair because there were cars constantly following Ivanka's every move. But it's not just the disturbance caused by security that rubbed people the wrong way. Neighbors also complained about Ivanka's trash, saying that she always missed the neighborhood garbage day and that her trash was constantly stinking up the street. She wasn't very considerate to her neighbors, and they surely hated her for it.
Number 10. Bill Murray. Sony's first venture into the world of Charlie's Angels was a massive success, starring Cameron Diaz, Drew Barrymore, and Lucy Liu as the titular angels. The movie was filled with action, a bit of comedy, and one of the strangest performances ever delivered by Crispin Glover. Seriously, that guy needs some help. One interesting addition to the cast was the inclusion of Ghostbusters alumni Bill Murray as the man behind the mic in charge of the Angels, Bosley. Apparently, the set was anything but a comedy after Bill found out that a scene was rewritten with without his knowledge. In an interview with the news outlet Deadline, Lucy Liu spoke up about her time on set and the situation surrounding Bill Murray's outburst. Apparently, Bill was away for a family event when a scene needed to be reshot for the movie, but instead of using a stand-in, it was decided that the scene could be filmed without Murray's character even being involved, so the scene went on without him. When he returned to find that the change was made while he was gone, he was furious. He reportedly shouted at half of the crew, including Lucy herself. At first, she wasn't sure why he was aiming his comments at her. She's not the one who wrote the scene, she wasn't the director or anything, so she asked if Bill was talking to her, which sent him into a full-on meltdown. She decided to speak out on Bill's behavior on set, and Bill was ultimately written out of the sequel. Lucy is proud for speaking her mind despite being a relatively unknown actor at the time, and has always been glad that Bill's career seems to have suffered for it, because Lucy was just the first of many celebrities to comment on his behavior, but we'll save that for another time. Number 9. Dustin Hoffman. Dustin is a very easy man to spot. Not only is he a solid actor, but he has just a very specific face. You know, Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium, anyone? That's an old one. Despite his ability to play lovable and cheerful characters, he actually started out as somewhat of a villain in the world of Hollywood. On the second day of filming his more famous part in Kramer vs. Kramer, Dustin decided to improvise a scene where he strikes Meryl Streep across the face. Let me rephrase that. Dustin Hoffman thought it'd be a great idea to strike Meryl Streep. Mamma mia, that's not okay. Get it? She was in Mamma Mia. I'm so good at this. Not only was Meryl shocked by the move, but she recalled that Dustin was also trying to use a tactic on her called emotional recall, and was literally taunting her about her recently deceased partner John Cazale and his illness. Yay! Number 8. James Franco. Tyrese Gibson and James Franco starred opposite each other in a 2005 dramatic piece called Annapolis. The story follows Franco's character wanting to attend the titular Naval Academy and entering into a boxing tournament against some of the Navy's best and brightest. His main opponent is Tyrese Gibson. Throughout the majority of the filming, James and Tyrese would regularly practice their choreography for their final fight of the film. Now, method acting is one thing when you just pretend to be someone else all the time, but it's different when you're literally punching your co-stars for real. Instead of the normal choreography allowing actors to fake strike each other, Franco was throwing real punches without warning. Gibson tried to be civil at first and asked him to lighten up, but Franco ignored him and continued to just box his heart out. When asked about the incident in interviews, Franco defends himself by saying that he was aware that he made the set difficult all the time, and claimed to be so wrapped up in his role that he probably just wasn't as friendly as he could have been. Gibson, however, holds a massive grudge towards Franco, claiming that he'd never stepped foot in the same room as him ever again. So good news for Tyrese, James got cancelled and Fast 11 comes out next week. Number 7. Ryan Gosling. The Notebook is considered to be one of the greatest romantic movies ever made in Hollywood, but oddly enough, the on-screen couple did not get along at all during the shoot. They would constantly fight on set and seem to have completely opposite ideas on how several of the scenes should play out. One day in particular was pretty exciting for anyone who wasn't involved, drama watchers sipping their tea, as Ryan called over the director and demanded that Rachel McAdams be replaced by another actress to read her lines with him. In front of 150 crew members, he claimed that Rachel wasn't giving him anything to work with, and the two would constantly yell at each other on set. Their toxic on-set feud somehow morphed into a toxic relationship that lasted for 2 years. Anyone who worked on the set blames them for constant schedule setbacks and creating an overall difficult work environment. Number 6. Tom Hardy. Mad Max Fury Road is a forgotten gem in cinema history. It featured little to no CGI, despite having some insane visuals, and it also featured some pretty stellar performances from its cast, including Nicholas Hoult, Charlize Theron, and Tom Hardy. But Charlize and Tom played the main characters Furiosa and Max, and while their on-screen characters end up working together in the end, on set, pretty different vibe. Tom had a bad habit of showing up late all the time. Meanwhile, Charlize was a brand new mother who would be there on time every single day, while her kids were forced to be taken care of by someone else. In a book about Mad Max Fury Road, the wild and true story of the creation of the film, the writer Kyle Buchanan shared an instance on set between Charlize and Tom. Everybody was there at 8 a.m. ready to shoot except for Tom Hardy. But to make a point, Charlize took her place and stayed there till Tom showed up 3 hours hours later. She didn't move a muscle, and according to the crew, she was beyond furious. When Tom finally showed up, she asked him how he could be so disrespectful and said that they should fine the sea next Tuesday $100,000 for every minute that he held her up, and the crew. She didn't say see you next Tuesday, but the word she did say set Tom off. He rushed up to her and pulled out the whole "what did you say to me" thing. Yeah, big tough guy, huh? You can't hear so good. Overall, Charlize felt very uncomfortable with Tom and had to have an assistant follow her around on set as a buffer between the two. When the shoot wrapped, the tension was gone and things seemed to have gotten better, but the difficult shoot combined with the stress is probably why there was never a Mad Max 2, which really hurts. Seriously, if you made it and you're watching this, make another one. Number 5, Vin Diesel. Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel first met on the set of the 5th Fast and Furious movie, Fast 5. They're really good with names. This was Vin Diesel's 5th movie while it was Dwayne's first. Not just in the franchise, but in the acting world in general. He had been in small budget movies, but this was a big budget movie. At first, everything seemed to be okay with these guys on set. Fast 5 made a ton of money and they asked Dwayne to return for 6 and 7. However, something changed in 2016 when, in a now deleted post, Dwayne called one of his fellow Fast 7 co-stars a candied bum. He didn't say bum, but we can't swear on the internet, so I'm a toddler today. He actually said a word that rhymes with grass. Rumors began to fly that this was more than likely referencing Vin Diesel. Rumors proven only a few weeks after the post was made. Following the premiere of Fate of the Furious, Johnson posted on Instagram thanking all of his fellow co-stars and cast members by name except for Vin Diesel. It was later confirmed by Fast and Furious co-star Michelle Rodriguez that there was a massive amount of tension on set between these guys. They were bros at first, but as time went on and the franchise evolved, so did their egos. They fought constantly over who should get more screen time, who should get more money, who was the real lead of the franchise. You know, toxic masculinity and all that. To keep both actors happy, Johnson was given a spin-off movie in which he co-starred as the lead with Jason Statham, and Vin Diesel was left right where he belongs with his family. Number 4, Janet Hubert. Will Smith got his big break in the acting world thanks to his successful time on the sitcom Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The show followed Will as the titular prince, living with his wealthy family in Bel-Air, surrounded by cousins, uncles, and of course, Aunt Viv. In season 1, Aunt Viv was played by a woman named Janet Hubert Witten, but as a lot of people know, she was recasted after an on-set feud with Will Smith just went way too far. According to Will, Janet viewed him as an antagonist. She had been in the business for years when Will suddenly popped into her life and took lead of a show. She held a tinge of jealousy towards Will as he just walked into town, got the gig, and that's it, you know? Well, hey Janet, I'm sorry, but that's what happens when you're good at your job. She was trying to convince the producers of his show to give her character more screen time and allow her to breathe on camera, but they said no, because it's not the Aunt Viv show, okay? She fought back hard, but it was ultimately decided that she would be asked to sit out of the rest of the series and was replaced by Daphne Maxwell Reid, who is the real Aunt Viv, okay? We all know and love her. Number 3, Alyssa Milano. So, let's talk about the show Charmed for a second. This was a solid series that was on air for almost 10 years. The series followed 3 sisters that discover they're descendants of a line of good female witches and they're destined to fight against the forces of evil. Yeah, it was a very fun show. However, just because you play sisters on set doesn't mean that you're going to be close in real life. Rose McGowan and Alyssa Milano had a very public altercation that resulted in a little incident on set being shared with the world. Rose claimed that Alyssa threw a fit in front of the crew, yelling about not being paid enough to do the stuff that she was doing, only she didn't say stuff. She called Alyssa's behavior appalling and claimed that she cried every time the show got renewed for another season because it just meant more time on a toxic set. Alyssa never shared her own comments on the situation, confirming what she was being accused of. Number 2, Richard Gere. Richard Gere is one of those actors that doesn't really act. Sometimes people just get hired for films because they have the face for it and the style. For Richard Gere, he did not have enough class and moxie to keep a handle on his role in the film Lords of the Flatbush. He was cast to star alongside Rocky himself, Sylvester Stallone, and according to Sly, these two did not get along. Their beef was strong and long-lasting throughout production, until it finally came to a head when one day Richard was just a little bit too into one scene and grabbed Sylvester aggressively by the collar. When Sly told him to lay off, he laid in instead. The scene was being filmed on Coney Island, and when the actors took a minute to take a break, they tried to break each other. Sly was eating a hot dog alone in his car. Sounds pretty peaceful, right? But suddenly Richard stormed in to join join him with half of a chicken dripping in mustard. Despite Sly's warnings about the mustard, it dripped all over his pants, and in true Rocky fashion, he elbowed Richard in the face and threw him out of his car. The altercation resulted in Richard being fired from the project. Oh no, we have to decide between Richard Gere and Sylvester Stallone. I wonder how quick that decision was. Number 1, Jared Leto. Now, Jared Leto has always been a problematic figure in the world of Hollywood throughout most of his career. After first gaining notoriety for portraying the character of Lane Dixon alongside Dennis Quaid and Danny Glover, Leto quickly began building up his acting repertoire with roles in iconic movies like Mr. Nobody, Girl Interrupted, and he even took a turn as the Clown Prince of Darkness, the Joker, in 2016, which we don't like to talk about much. It's not a good memory. Jared has always taken method acting to the extreme, losing and gaining weight rapidly over and over again, and it was in the film as the Joker where we think he might have snapped. While playing this iconic Batman villain, Leto purposefully distanced himself from his fellow actors on set, and reports are that he sent the castmates used adult toys, live animals, and deceased animals as well. At one point during filming, Captain Boomerang actor Jai Courtney found a live snake in his trailer following a long shoot day. The snake wasn't venomous or anything, but I think we can all agree that's a big nope. In recent years, he's claimed that any gifts that he sends to castmates are sent with the intent of joy and excitement, and should be received as such. But I don't know, exposing your fellow actors to your body fluids and real snakes? That doesn't sound very exciting.